Glue Wednesday. You see, it's my belief that we don't have to get over. We need to find ways to keep it together. And my glue is G-L-U-E. God's love undoes everything, because that's what keeps it together. That life is about going from one puzzle to the next. You're either a small, medium, or large piece of each puzzle in your family, social, or business relationships. Yet, no matter what size puzzle piece you think you are, without you, the puzzle is labeled as incomplete. Hi, this is Sporty King, and welcome to Glue Wednesday, G-L-U-E. You know, I've named this segment Glue Wednesday because so often people use the cliche of Wednesday being hump day. And since I like to focus on staying powerful and positive when positive doesn't seem like an option, and I'm word sensitive, I chose to call it, instead of hump day, glue day. The day that keeps the week together, keeps the beginning of the weekend together. See, hump has the connotation of the need to get over, when in fact what we need to do in life is always find ways to keep it together. And that's what I'll be talking to you about today with my special guest, who I'll introduce you to in a second. In 1996, I competed for the title of World Champion of Public Speaking in the Toastmasters International Speech Contest. To win the speech contest, you have to win at your club, your area, your division, your districts, then the semifinals and the finals. In that year, 1996, I made it to the finals, and I finished as one of the top 9 speakers in the world. That year, what Toastmasters does is they announced in condescending order, 3rd place, 2nd place, 1st place. And when they said 3rd place and 2nd place, they didn't say my name, and I was celebrating. And then when they said 1st place and the new world champion of public speaking, they still didn't say my name, and I still celebrated. And when I went home and people said, well, Sporty, how'd you do in the contest? I told them that I tied for 4th with the other 5 that didn't take 1st, 2nd, or 3rd. Because the key is you always have to make sure that you are seeing yourself as a winner. And so today my topic is actually you still have to win 2nd place. So you see, this year I've won area, division, and I've won club, area, and division. And this past Saturday, May 5th, was our District 37 competition. And on the menu, the semifinals in Chicago. I was the first of 10 speakers in our contest, and I set a wonderfully high bar with my speech titled Stuff Happens. And stuff is S-T-U-F-F, situations that unleash our focus and faith. And ultimately, I would win 2nd place. And as I told those who lamented my not coming in 1st place, I said, you know what? You still have to win 2nd place. So that's why I want to introduce you to my guest this broadcast. It says, District 37 International Speech Contest, 2nd place, May 5th, 2018. And first, before I move on, I'd like to give you my legacy lesson, because that's really what our session is about, how you still have to win 2nd place. Control your vocabulary. Don't let your vocabulary, I got to say it again because I split up. Control your vocabulary, rather than allowing your vocabulary to control you, which is what mine almost tried to do. And the reason I say that is because when people hear 2nd, what I want you to do is, when you hear the word 2nd, think about what comes to your mind. Just about everyone enjoying this broadcast probably hears any of several cliches regarding something that comes after 1st. But how many of you heard moment? When you heard the word 2nd, how many of you heard the word moment? You see, every 2nd is a moment in your life. And in that moment on Saturday, May 5th, 2018, I had the chance to compete for the title of World Champion of Public Speaking. Sometimes in life, you only get one chance to hear or share your story. Yet you get to learn and live it over and over again. And it's not until you give of yourself and give of your life that your story grows. In life, you are constantly allowed the chance to give and grow. The growth is incremental. However, it would be impossible without you and your effort. So I'm giving each of you, in this broadcast, I'm giving each of you a piece of a puzzle to remind you that life is about going from one puzzle to the next. You're either a small, medium, or large piece of every puzzle in your business, social, or family lives. Yet without you, no matter how small or large you see yourself, without you the puzzle is called incomplete. Your puzzle piece will be the last letter in your name. And what I want you to do is to give me a word that describes how you feel about this moment in your life, using that last letter in your name. For instance, my last letter in Sporty is a Y. So I might say that right now in my life, in this moment, I feel yes. Yes, because I know that I did what I wanted to do and I continue to do what I want to do with my life. I might say that my word is yes because I constantly believe in being positive, as well as the fact that I'll get what I pray for when I say yes. My word could be yesterday. Why? Because that was one of the days contributing to my legacy, and I'm always concerned with my legacy. And one day, that's how I'll be talked about. So I'm going to go through the alphabet and give you some words that you can use for your last letter, and you tell me what you're going to do with it. And it'll be in that moment and how I describe my legacy, that word and that feeling, that my story will be told in a way that it'll never be told again. If your letter is an A, instead of average, it could be for how you accept responsibility for your actions in life. Let's say your name ends with a B, and so your B could be, instead of blame, which is B-L-A-M-E, basically lying and making excuses, where you want to decide to say that someone else has control over your life. B could be how bold you are when it comes to standing up for yourself and for what you believe in. C, instead of saying can't, which is the one thing that you actually are unable to do. The only thing you can't do is fail. And so we have to get the word can't out of our lives and have a can attitude. Cancel all negativity. Have a can attitude. So get the can't out and let the C stand for the care you take in creatively expressing yourself. D, instead of doubt, how about your determination and decisive drive towards your dreams? E, instead of empty, the excellence or eloquence in your expression as you enjoy every moment. F, sometimes people think about failure. But how about, first of all, fail is F-A-I-L, faith activated in loss. Because sometimes it's when you have a loss in your life that you have to activate your faith. In fact, that's what my Stuff Happens speech was all about, was how important it was to, when you go through some stuff and some challenging situations, that you find out how well you can focus and have your faith to get you through, and you're going to always need that. So again, don't let the F stand for failure. Let it be the finding the fun in waking up each morning. Let's say your name ends in a G. And G, you might think the GOAT. Sometimes people say, oh, well, I'm the GOAT of a situation where things could go, bad things may happen and you feel like you're the GOAT. Well, first of all, in sports, what they like to say is the GOAT is the greatest of all time. But you could also let it stand for gaining grace and gratitude, with each step you take to give of yourself. H, instead of focusing on the heartbreak, how about the heartfelt happiness as you help those in need? And there's always going to be someone in your life and in your circle who's going to be in need. That's why it's going to also be important for you to understand the difference between need and want. And not only in other people's lives, but most importantly in your lives. Because there are certain people that we need in our life, and there's certain people that we want in our lives. I know my mother used to always say, when we'd say, well, Mommy, I need, she said, the only thing you need to do is stay black and die. Everything else comes under the category of want. So what you do is figure out, what do you want from your life, and what do you want from the people around you? If we went back to the D, we'd also find it could stand for define. You have to define the friendships in your life and the people in your circle, because you know I always talk to you about choosing your messengers carefully and making sure that you recognize that you too are somebody's messenger. So redefine who you are and what it looks like to be in your friendship circle and the people who touch you, because the people in your first 5 rows are the people who have the biggest impact on your life. because those are the decisions that you get to listen to. Those are the votes that count when you're deciding which way you want to go, whether you want to go right or right. You see, it's not right or left, it's right or right, because our hard choices in life are between two good things. It's not a hard choice when you got a choice between good and evil. The hard choice is between good and good. So think about who you're going to have in your circle when you're going to go right or right. The I, don't let the I stand for ignorance. Think about your impact, your insight, and irresistible personality. The J, don't let the J stand for jealousy. Jealousy is such a zapping emotion, and it takes all the joy away from your life. And that's why the J should be for the joy, because you should enjoy your jubilant joy. And then, of course, joy is J-O-Y, just one you. What better thing is there to celebrate than the fact that there's nobody else like you? So you should always have joy at your fingertips, pretty much in your mirror. Keep celebrating yourself. K, now, oh my God, it took me a while to come up with a negative word for K, but you know what I came up with? Kryptonite. Yeah, what's your kryptonite? What's your weakness? What's the thing that makes you give up and throw in the towel? Or even when you think you're going to be brave, but as you get closer to it, see, because that was the thing with Superman with kryptonite. The closer he got to it, the weaker he got. Sometimes as we start to approach a goal, we get weak because we start to lose a little bit of our faith. We start out bold, yeah, I'm going to be able to do this. And then as we go through the trials and tribulations, because God hasn't made a straight path for you yet, He's always allowed you to find a bumpy road so that you can appreciate the goal when you get there. So sometimes the closer we get to the goal, the more scared we get. We get a little weaker because now it's like, okay, now what am I going to do once I get this? Well, you know, it's the cliche we hear where everybody says, well, you know, when they get somewhere, they're going to forget where they came from. I like to tell people, I will never forget where I came from. I'm forgetting you now so that when I get there, you won't blame it on the fact that I made it somewhere else. Because the people who are wanting to pull me down, I'm getting rid of you. So how can I forget somebody who was important to my life? No, I am erasing the people who are not important. And those, somebody said, well, Sporty, you're supposed to be positive. Well, that's positive. How are you going to go forward if you're going to keep negative people in your life? And people a lot of times say, well, I want to get the negative people out of my life. Bulletin, you can't get the negative people out of your life. But guess what? They've got the same type of affirmation that says, I want to get the positive people out of my life. So how about letting them get you out by staying positive? Or bringing you in and help them get a chance to be positive as well. Because that's one of the things we do. If we go back to caring and helping people, you can help somebody overcome their negativity. Sometimes people are negative because their environment supports their negativity. And it's so much easier for them to stay negative than it is for them to get positive and change and make a change, because once they make a change, then people are going to keep trying to remind them of who they used to be and pulling them back, not allowing it. It's the crabs in the bucket syndrome. They won't allow you to grow, which is also goes to the point I made earlier about how sometimes with the kryptonite, you get weaker as you get to your goal, because suddenly people will start out pushing you and encouraging you, and then when you start to get there, suddenly they start to doubt you. You don't hear those voices that much anymore. And then what happens when you stop hearing voices? Then you start hearing the only voice, and you hear it's your voice, and sometimes your voice is a voice of doubt. Well, that's when you can switch and recognize that the real voice you're hearing is not yours, but it's God's voice. And His voice is saying, I don't know if you can do it, but I bet you can. Take another step. And that's what I want you to do. So be careful of your kryptonite. The L, don't think of yourself as a liar. You're going to have plenty of lies in your life. But not just the L, what you want to do is not just who you love, but how you love. How you love, how you live, and how you laugh is going to make a difference in your life. And make sure that you've got the right people again in that circle. The M, don't minimize your success. Don't minimize your success. See, people will minimize your success and maximize your failures and your weaknesses. But if you are in charge of who you are, then you will make sure that you maximize your successes and your victories. That's why I keep my trophy with me. And I'm happy to share it with you because I'm going to maximize this. See, I won't be the world champion of public speaking this year. However, what I'll end up having on my resume is district. I'll have district semifinalists. See, I'm not going to minimize what it took to get this trophy. 35,000 people compete for this contest in this World Championship every year around the world. 35,000. So I don't know where that number starts to break down, but the key is I'm always looking at me being the one of one. I'm really not that focused on being the one of 35,000. I'm the one of one. When I started my speaking business, I used to tell people I want to be the Muhammad Ali of motivational speaking. I want to get out there and talk about being the greatest. You know what I found out? He was the Sporty king of boxing. And so now what do I do with my life? Try to help people find out who's the you of what. Because you've got to be the greatest. You've got to be the greatest you. And somebody's going to say, as you're in the process of proving how great you are and living in your greatness, someone's going to call you conceited and self-centered. And that's when you've got to recognize that it's not conceited and self-centered, it's convinced and self-assured. So as you start to play with your vocabulary, you'll start to see how this works out. So let's move on to let's keep it at the M, because I said I don't want you to minimize. I want you to look at the moments masked as mistakes before the memories make the miracles. The moments masked as mistakes before the memories make them miracles, because there are no mistakes in your life. They are only opportunity for you to learn that this was not the track that you needed to stay on. It may have been a great track for you to take, but it might not have been the one for you to stay on. Stop second guessing yourself. The N, narcissistic. Don't be narcissistic. Don't run for president. Celebrate the newness, necessity, and nurturing of now. And see, now, by now, I mean hold on to the moments. This is the most important day of your life. This is the most important moment of your life, because it could be the last one. And when your final moment hits, that's when all of the data gets collected. All the people who are going to come and speak at your funeral or at your memorial service, that's where all, because everything's got a period on it now instead of a comma. I remember, even in my Stuff Happens speech, by the way, it's about the fact my mother taking her last breath, and that I had to be the one to stand there and watch that. And instead of me going into any kind of, tailspin of, oh, goodness, why is me, woe is me, I said, you know what, I recognize that God chose me out of my family as the only one who could have stood there and handled that. Because the rest of my family needed to know about it. And no one else would have been able to talk about that, to journal it, and to share that and uplift the rest of our family about the importance of my mother and the legacy that she continues to leave with us, and we live through her. So hold on to the now, because it's going to make a difference. The O, don't let yourself be overwhelmed. Embrace each opportunity to outshine yourself. See, because you are your only competition. The one thing, like I said, I didn't worry about the 35,000 people to compete. And there were people who were looking at the list of competitors. Said, well, you know what, Sport, did you look at the other competitors? I said, no, I never looked at them, because I was not competing against the other 9 speakers. I was only competing against me to be better than I was last time. You see, when I deliver my full message, I win. I don't worry about what the judges say, because it's not about the judge. Judging is it's an opinion. It's an opinion. It's someone who is in the role of being a judge. Now, depending on what they had for breakfast, if their car got in an accident, if they had a parking ticket, if you don't know what's going on in their lives that changes their focus while they're judging you. And that's the same thing that's going on in your life, in any relationship you have, on the job or off the job. People do things according to what's going on in their lives. So if you're going to allow that to take over your life and let you have a negative spirit, now you're not going in a good direction. Get off of it. And it's going to happen. But I'm just saying, get off of that path. Because other people will put you on that path. The key is you've got to make sure that you know how to get off of that path and not stay on it. Because a lot of times they don't do it on purpose. A lot of times we want to blame somebody for something when sometimes they just don't know. Everybody's not busy going around trying to hurt you. Let that go. Oh, the devil is a liar. No, he's not. He's crystal clear. He knows how to tell the truth and twist it. And if you don't know the truth, then he gets to win. So you have to start to think about all these cliches that we hear. You know, the tongue is powerful because how we use it makes a difference. But guess what? You got two ears to combat that tongue. So make sure that you're hearing clearly and who you're hearing from, so that you can redefine what someone's saying to you and make it work for you. If it's something that you don't understand, ask for clarity. Choose your messengers carefully, since we skipped the M already. Okay, so that's messengers as well. So that was the O. Don't be overwhelmed. P, petty. Oh my God, don't you have petty people in your life? Don't you be petty. Know that perfection is a goal to fail. Huh, what? Perfection is a goal to fail. A lot of times when we say, well, you know what? Practice makes perfect. And then you practice, and you don't reach perfection. And then you say, well, I didn't reach perfection, but look where I got. So in other words, your goal was never to reach perfection, because you even say, right after you don't get it, you say, well, you know nobody's perfect, but look where I got. There's no such thing as perfection. How about making excellence your goal? Because you won't make it to perfect. And so your goal was ultimately to get here instead of this perfect spot, and then satisfy somebody else. I said, but look where I work. Look where I made it to. Don't you feel good for me? Nah, you're not here to please them and satisfy them. Reward yourself. Don't worry about pleasing everybody else. You got to have the right people in your life to who you want to please. Those are your messengers and your 5-row people. So you're going to please someone. I'm not saying to cut off the world, but recognize that you have to please yourself. After you please yourself, and it doesn't matter what order you want to put it in, but you better make sure that you're in that formula. And because the truth is, you can't please or help anyone until you help yourself. When we hear people talk about addictions, we hear them talk about how first they had to make the choice, and then you have what's called support people behind you. But if you don't make that choice, your support people can't do a thing. Okay? So make sure that you are not worrying about perfection, but make your goal excellence, because you can always achieve excellence. Q, don't quit. Don't quit. Instead, quench your thirst for knowledge and examine your quick decisions for their quality. Sometimes we make quick decisions because life does happen in a moment, in a second, and we have to make a quick decision. How can we be better at making quick decisions? By making sure that we understand who we are. Never had somebody say, well, if I were you, I would do this. Bulletin, they have no idea what they would do if they were you, because they've never been in your shoes. And guess what? Bulletin, you had no idea what you would do either, even though you get to be you. So again, it's petty, it's being picky about the word use, but that's what I do. I collect words, and that's what keeps me from getting scammed. So, if you just say, well, Sporty, that's being a little picky, like, well, that's fine. That's how I protect myself, which is another word for P. Protect yourself, okay? So, because you have to get your understanding so that you can make sure that you're going to be all right. And so the R, don't regret. I just don't do regret. Instead, remember to reward yourself with rest to revitalize your spirit. And then S, don't be scared. Use that spirit, that revitalized spirit, to stretch, save, and strengthen the many lives you touch. And then the T, let that touch be a taste of testimony, trust, and talent, rather than considering it to be something terrible. Because the key is, once we put all of those together, that we get the right amount of rest and we make sure that our spirit is okay, we can get rid of regret and scared, as well as not only scared, but scarcity and the terrible things that we decide are happening to us when we lose sight of the fact that God is not always giving people a straight line to walk. He's giving you a problem so that you can get the testimony. So again, that's why I say I don't give the devil credit for anything. When something, quote unquote, goes bad in my life, I'm like, oh, okay, well, let's see where God's taking me on this one. Because everybody in the Bible, I always like to say, there are no good stories in the Bible. It's good endings. Every book has a pattern of problem, faith, patience, testimony. It's a cycle. And it has to have a problem. Somebody's got to have a problem, and then somebody's got to have the faith to say, well, we can get past this. We know what you're going through. We can get past it. Then they got to be patient because it might not happen right away, and then they're going to get the testimony. I happened to be reading the book of Jonah this morning, and so it talked about how Jonah decided to go west when he was supposed to go east, and so the key is. That could seem like he went the quote unquote, even West begins with the letter W, wrong, that he went the wrong way. Well, technically he did because he was trying to run away from God, which is impossible. So he was trying to not do what he was sent here to do. And in the process of doing that, when the boat was in a storm, and he said, okay, to get us out of this storm, you're going to have to throw me overboard. Now, doesn't that sound like suicide? Throw me overboard so that I can drown and save the boat, which is what happened. They threw him overboard. The storm stopped, and the people on the boat were saved. So we would think, oh, that was terrible that they threw him overboard. Because imagine the people who were going by they were probably on a weekend cruise, and so they were going by, and they saw him get thrown off the boat. They said, oh, how they threw that guy off the boat? How terrible! No, but that was God's way of getting him on the right path. So he threw him off, had him rest 3 days in the fish. Oops, sounds like Easter. And so he came back, and then he got himself right on the right path. That Easter and East, see how the E's go together? So it's always about you having that patience and waiting for the blessing to come to you. So let's get to the letter U. Instead of thinking unable that you can't do something, let the U stand for understanding that unique starts with the sound of the letter of your blessing. Unique starts with the sound of the letter of your blessing, and that is you. You are your blessing. And as you understand that you are your blessing, you get to understand why so many of us think that you're our blessing too, and we're so glad to share time with you. V, vanquish. Vanquish, don't erase stuff, but continue to value the variety of your victories, because they won't all be the same size. We have to have small, medium, and large victories, just as we have the small, medium, and large pieces of the puzzle as we come toward the end of this alphabet. But you have to make sure that you celebrate all of your victories, small, medium, and large. And so the W, instead of thinking worthless, know that winning is personal. W-I-N, what I need. Everyone has a personal win that makes them a valuable member of every team that they're on, and they've ever been on, and ever will be on. And it can often be tied to the when and why. Because when you win and why you win is something that you get to define. You won't always win. But you've got to find the win in the situation, so that can help you, continue to fuel your spirit and see yourself as a winner. The X is for xenophobia. Xenophobia, X-E-N-O-P-H-O-B-I-A, is the fear or hatred of strangers or foreigners, or what is strange or foreign. So if you can only exist with the people and communicate with the people who are like you, you won't go very far. So get rid of the xenophobia. And start recognize that you got to X that out of your spirit so that you can meet more people and expand your circles. Y is for yield. Sometimes we yield. Don't give up. That's what yielding can be, sometimes giving up. But instead, most things are a yes until someone tells you no. And so the Z, 0. Yeah. But I say, look at the 0. Approach life with zeal and embrace the fact that you get to start from scratch. That's what your 0 has to be. I won second place on Saturday. And while I sat and waited for the moment of the judge's decision, I never thought of I never thought of anything but me finishing in first place. And certainly that I'm a winner. In life, just as there are judges in contests, there will be people who judge you. When they finish, you get the final vote as to where you stand. And it's in that moment, in that second, that you get to decide whether you won second place or lost first place. I choose to be a winner in each outcome of my life. I take what I've learned, I live it, and I keep growing. In fact, I let it be my glue, and I remind you to let it be yours. I wish you the same and look forward to seeing you next week right here on the Wake Up Call TV network, as we will have another session of Glue Wednesday from the winner. Ciao.